So you've got your ukuleles all tuned. You ready for the next step? Here we go. So what does the classroom look like when you start teaching? I find it much simpler, and I've done this with scads and scads of classes and workshops. If I use PowerPoint or Keynote, I'm a Keynote person because I use Mac, but that's not an endorsement. Um, but I find once I've got the slideshow created, it's really easy to shift the order around or to take one out or to add a slide. And it doesn't, once I've started the process, it really gets faster and faster. So it will save you a lot of time in the long run. I also think if you're using music stands and papers and books, first of all, you've got music stands between the children's hands and you, and then makes it a little more difficult for you to actually see what they're doing. Also, it's one more thing that can go wrong, that can impede their progress. Because if they're concerned about whether or not they'll be successful, they might do things like lose their papers or knock the music stand over or anything that could prevent them from having to actually show you whether or not they can do it. Because sometimes students would rather do things like that than be embarrassed at not being successful amongst their peers. Because, if you're grade 4, grade 5, grade 6, peer pressure is starting to become very important. All right, so you've got the idea, you've got the plan of your keynote or your projector. Books, some kind of practice book, or making a booklet, making a handful of booklets of your slides, for example, might be a good idea, so that if someone is away and misses 2 or 3 classes, a student that's played guitar or has caught on very well, you could have that student go over in a corner or even just outside the door in the hall where you can still monitor them and have them get the student caught up who was away. The other thing is recess time. If you have students that want to come in and play or practice, and it's possible that you're available to mark papers or something while they're playing, whatever, so that they are supervised. Having books for them to use is a lot better than having them to get out your whatever vehicle you use to create your PowerPoint and have them working with that. So some hard copies of what you're actually teaching are not a bad idea, but anyway, I'm going to tuck in an example. I don't start with notation right away. I just start with boxes. And each box has the chord name and then a slant mark for each time they strum. So they strum on the slant name, on the chord name, and then they strum on each slanted mark. The reason I do this is because I want them to get used to the idea of reading and not looking at the fingers. Because as soon as they look at their fingers to get the right chord, they've lost their place in the music and now they can't participate. So, and reading music is an important part of their music expectations for whatever grade they're in, is reading some form of notation. And starting with the box and the chord and slash marks, that is a form of notation. And the grade 5 curriculum in Ontario says that they need to read varying forms of notation or different forms of notation. And the ukulele certainly covers that. So the next step is the fingering on the ukulele. Now this is backwards because of the mirror, but I'm sure you can get it. Please, please be as firm as your students will allow with regards to using first fret is Peter Pointer, second fret is your second finger or Tommy Taw, and third fret is your finger 3 or your ring finger, whatever terminology you want to use, but sort that out. The reason being is that muscle memory will kick in a little more quickly if they always play the C chord like this. They always play the A minor chord like this. And then the reason being is that then when they want to play an F chord, there's a finger available to do that. So and then their fingers will memorize where to go, and they don't have to always look at their fingers. Now, when they're first learning the chord, yes, they should look at their fingers, make sure it's on the right spot, and then using their index finger, nail, strum down. Pad can strum up, but initially you're going to do just down strums. Just straight down strums. Okay? And then, so you start with a C chord. My sequence is a C chord, and then A minor. C is here, A minor is here. And what I do first is I split the class in half. And one half is playing the C chord, one half is playing the A minor chord, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're switching back and forth with no break. And then we switch chords on each side. And then I say, if some of you think you can play both chords without taking time off to change, then try it. And so then we do the A minor, 2, 3, 4, C chord, 2, 3, 4, A minor. And all the while, you are watching to see if some people are playing both chords, and if they're doing it without time off to switch. You're watching to see if students are not looking at their fingers, to see that they're watching you, and or if you've got the chords notated on the wall, but really you're directing. One half is playing one chord, the other half is playing the other chord, and some are playing both, and they know they're just switching between those two chords. So, and then when you cut them off, they stop. And the trick is, when you're going to cut them off, you plan ahead that you know exactly what you're going to say. Because as soon as they stop playing, they're going to say, I really messed up, and now what about, like they're going to have a comment to their neighbor about what they just did. But if you are ready to speak first, then you get the instructions in before they have the chance to start the conversation. So that's sort of some basic things about what the first class is going to be like. And remember my rules. Don't turn the tuning pegs. And if I put my hand up, you put up your empty hand. Not the ukulele, but just your empty hand. Okay? Next time, we'll talk about chord sequences and what an actual class, what actually happens in a class. Take care. Bye-bye.